It's really nice to see you all. I now remember that my very first year back to the district as Chancellor, this event was planned, and for some reason it was canceled. So it's really an honor to be here this evening, and I happen to know why this worked out this time, because we have an awesome leadership team at Fresno City College that made sure that this event took place. You are among the best and the brightest of your college-going peers. Do you realize that? You are among the best and the brightest of your college-going peers. That's evident by the fact that you're here today and that you are leaders at your colleges. I applaud you for what you've accomplished. And I applaud you for your commitment to the Black Caucus, to its leadership, and to your call to commitment. What an awesome commitment, shaping a new and lasting legacy of success for African American students in California community colleges. The reason why people like me decided to devote most of my career to California community colleges is because of you. Because we happen to know that every single day when we come to our jobs, that we have the opportunity to do something to make a difference in somebody's life. And half the time we don't even realize we've done it. But we just know in our hearts that we are committed to changing the future by doing whatever we can to ensure that you can access a higher education, that you can access all of your dreams and goals that you want to achieve, and that for us is heartfelt work. Thank you. I'd like to talk about legacies. A few months ago, I was talking to a colleague, and it was one of those moments where I just needed someone to kind of be there for me. And she talked about the importance of a legacy. And she said, you know, Deborah, I've always felt that it was important to think about what legacy I wanted to leave from whatever college or district I was a part of. And she made me think, because I never thought about that before. I mean, a legacy, you know, I just think about doing my work and doing whatever I can so that the next person who follows me, whenever they follow me, whoever they are, can find things just a little bit better than I found them when I came. But she really gave me pause. And tonight, I would like to just encourage you to think about the same. You already have thought about a collective commitment to leaving a legacy for future California community college students in the Black Caucus, as well as in the system as a whole. But have you thought about the legacy that you, as an individual, want to leave? And I think we have a wonderful opportunity to establish whatever we want that legacy to be in every aspect of our life and in every place we are at different points in our life. So I ask you to consider the following ways to leave a legacy. You can leave a legacy of excellence. St. Francis of Assisi said, it's no use walking anywhere to preach unless you're preaching as you're walking. To leave a legacy of excellence, you strive to be your best every day. As you strive for excellence, you inspire excellence in others. One person in pursuit of excellence raises the standards and behaviors of everyone around them. Your life is your greatest legacy, and since you only have one life to live, give it all you can. Or do you choose to leave a legacy of encouragement? You have a choice. You can lift other people up, or you can bring other people down. 20 years from now, when people think of you, what do you want them to remember about you? The way you encourage them, or the way you discourage them? Be that person. Someone will call 5 or 20 years from now and say, thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. A legacy of purpose. People are most energized when they are using their strengths and talents for a purpose beyond themselves. To leave a legacy of purpose, make your life something bigger than you. While you're not going to live forever, you can live on through the legacy you leave and the positive impact you make in the world. As I came over this afternoon, I kept thinking, service before self. Service before self. It's not the title Chancellor that is going to mean anything in my life when I leave this district. Most people say, what is a Chancellor anyway? What do Chancellors do? But what is important to me is that I was given the blessing and the opportunity to do something to make a difference in the State Center Community College District. A legacy of purpose, serving. A legacy of love. I think you're going to hear about love during this program. What's love got to do with it? Dr. Van Hook, stand up. I often think about my grandparents who raised me, and what I remember most was their love for me. They gave me a legacy of love that I must pass on to my other family members and others that I live with and work with. Share a legacy of love, and it will embrace generations to come. In fact, tonight, I just want to dedicate my life and my ability to speak to you at this moment, at this time in African American History Month, to my grandparents, Arthur Day, Sr., Bertha Bates, Washington, James, Washington, my mother, Darlene King, and my father, John Henry Blue, Jr. You see, my mother became pregnant with me at 17 years of age, and she had to drop out of high school. She could not go to continuing ed. She could not go to school at all. So it was very shameful for her, but yet she brought me into this world. My hometown didn't have community colleges. So when we graduated from high school, we wanted to go to college. We had to drive to Springfield, Illinois, or Champaign, Illinois, or go to a university. There was one private university in my hometown. And my grandmother's goal for me was, Debbie, if you can just graduate from high school without getting pregnant, I will be proud of you. And so fortunately, my grandmother got to see me complete a bachelor's degree, but she didn't get to see the rest of what I did in terms of my education. And then there was that person who encouraged me, Mr. Charles Diggs. He was my 5th grade teacher, my first African-American teacher, and he and his wife lived in our neighborhood, and she was a teacher as well. And they would hire me to babysit their 2 children, and they would show me different books that I could read to learn more about African-American history, but more importantly, they also showed me what it meant to be an educated family. They lived a better lifestyle. It was just a way to understand what education could do in my life. What legacy are you going to leave? It's my hope that one day someone can refer to me like I refer to Mr. Diggs. It's my hope that one day my son and my daughter, or one of my 7 grandchildren, or my 2 stepchildren, will say something about the legacy that my husband and I left for them. Life is best lived in service to others. Consider others' interests as important as your own. Love your neighbor even if you don't like them. It's interesting that Jesus told us to love others, but he never tells us to like them. Liking has to do with emotions. Loving has to do with actions. And what you will find is that when you love them and do good by them, you will more than often begin to like them. Maintain integrity at all costs. There are very few things that you can take to the grave with you, but your reputation and your good name is important. There are always going to be temptations and people who try to convince you to cut corners and break your integrity, but don't do it. That's all you have. You have to take risks in order to gain. You reap what you sow. Hard work is never a waste. And never give up when you fail. Essentially, my grandmother and grandfather dropped all these little seeds along the way that I happen to remember at different points in time. It sounds silly, it sounds trite, but it has helped me throughout my life, which is honesty is the best policy. You're going to have, if you haven't already, you're going to have so many challenges that you face, and you'll always be faced with the option to try to twist the story, because, and all these little voices that try to convince you that it's okay, but it's not okay to be dishonest. Your integrity is all you have. Another little saying my grandmother used to put in my ear was, pretty is as pretty does. You know, so doing the hair, putting on the clothes, trying to be cute, she would just say, pretty is as pretty does. In other words, I don't care how you look, I care how you act. And my grandfather would say, you can do anything you want to do. A person with a 5th grade education, you can do anything you want to do. You can be anything you want to be. My grandmother, a 9th grade education, the most beautiful penmanship in the world, and I write like chicken scratch. But I feel like I'm rambling, but I just want to again say, integrity is important, and as you go about your work right now, the one thing about community colleges is you're all different ages. Some of you are very young, some of you are a little bit older, some of you are a little bit older, some of you are a little bit older. And that's a good thing, because there's ability for everyone to learn from one another. I would like to just close with some comments from Martin Luther King Jr. on leadership. I went to the inauguration and went to the Martin Luther King Memorial, and I love going to the gift shop there because I always find something that inspires me. I'd like to close with reading a few bullets from Martin Luther King Jr. on leadership, and every single chapter tells stories about his experiences with leadership, but it ends with some principles. So I'd like to share these principles. Create a blueprint for yourself, one that you can utilize in your future leadership endeavors. Become your own teacher. Remember that many issues you have not cleared up intellectually may be solved in the sphere of collective, practical action and experience. Love is a potent instrument for social and collective transformation. Power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Take time to compose a letter or speak on the phone with people you disagree with. Can you imagine that? Your aim should be to persuade through love, patience, and understanding, goodwill. If your words fail, persuade with your acts. Take the time to explain why your ideas will work. Seek to create a crisis and foster attention so that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. Remember that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor, but it must be demanded by the oppressed. Never seek to defeat or humiliate an opponent. Imagine that. Try to bring about a change of heart. Remember that only light can put out darkness. Meet the focus of hate with the power of love. The reason you should not follow the old eye for an eye philosophy is that it ends up leaving everybody blind. What will your legacy be? What will your legacy be?
The doctor, I grew up in the 60s. I'm a byproduct of the 60s. And in the 60s, The one thing that happened is they started sit-ins, and on college campuses throughout the United States, they started walking out. So her last bit of information or suggestion was, we don't foment riots, but we can. She suggested that if you have an idea or desire that you think has weight and merit, especially on the community college campus. Now, this is her district, so she didn't say not to come knock on her door, or if she doesn't want to hear it, she didn't say, come knock on my door.
Come knock on my door.
We did talk about giving. Let me find hers. I meant to give this to the SO president to give to her, but since I forgot, we're going to start with me giving it to her. This says, Deborah G. Blue, PhD, Chancellor, State Center Community College District, in honor and recognition of your dedication in shaping a new and lasting legacy of success for African American students in California community colleges. As a recognized, Mr. James.
Yes, sir.
No, that one. I'm gonna need you right quick. Don't go nowhere. You can go when we finish this. On behalf of the constituency of the 54th District of the State of California, acknowledgement is merited and hereby rendered with sincere congratulations, Dr. Deborah Blue. And